These are the biggest accidents that ended drivers' careers.
Oh, that's it! Oh, with a terrible crash.
Formula One may look glamorous, but behind the champagne lies a brutal reality. Woke up from my coma on Wednesday, and I was a double amputee. Let's prove it, and start with Martin Donnelly. It was 1990 when the tension between Senna and Prost was at its peak. But during qualifying in Spain, all attention suddenly shifted. A Lotus car, flying at 167 miles per hour, veered off track. The Lotus had failed to take a 160-meter corner and had slammed into the guardrail. The asphalt was littered with debris. In the middle, a body, still strapped to the seat. It was Martin Donnelly. He was lying motionless. It seemed like everything was over. A few years ago, he was the promising rider who was breaking through from the junior series thanks to his determination and talent. But in Jerez, everything changed. It took over 8 agonizing minutes for medics to reach him.
I was on the track unconscious. I wasn't breathing for 11.5 minutes.
When they arrived, they couldn't believe he was still alive. His legs were destroyed, his spine was damaged, his skull cracked. I remember nothing. Pulled, my leg was gone. His Formula One career was over before it even began. But Donnelly didn't walk away from racing. He couldn't let it go that easily. He was permanently disabled and living in constant pain. But he still became a positive presence in the paddock, this time as a coach, a steward, and an instructor. He helped run junior teams and eventually became a leading figure at the Lotus Driving Academy. I was lucky I survived. I wasn't going to waste that. And though he would carry the limp and the pain for the rest of his life, he never let the ghost of Jerez define him. Instead, he turned it into fuel. Accidents can look different, but Maria de Villota's story begins with that same dream and ends with something more unpredictable. Another driver that broke all the barriers was Maria de Villota. And yes, Maria was a woman, the daughter of Emilio de Villota, a former F1 driver. This wasn't just the story of an amateur. She climbed the ranks like any Formula One driver, F3, Euro 3000, Super League Formula. And finally, in 2012,
I'm Maria de Villota, the Marazza Formula One test driver, and my racing career started.
But before she could even take a step, the unexpected happened. During testing, her car stalled and then suddenly lurched forward. Maria's helmet slammed into the lower rear of the truck. Just look at it. After the impact, what was meant to be a routine test turned into a nightmare. Her face was crushed, causing her to lose her right eye. And just like that, everything changed. Maria survived and reappeared in public just a few months later. But now her main goal was safety and life after trauma. She wrote a memoir, Life is a Gift, a title that perfectly captured her new outlook on life. She became a powerful advocate for road safety, brain injury awareness, and women's rights in motorsport. Her story sparked real change. But suddenly, a year later,
the Formula One reserve racing driver Maria de Villota has been found dead in a hotel room in Spain.
The cause was later confirmed as a complication, a severe seizure tied to her previous brain trauma. A silent echo of the crash that had nearly taken her life once before finally did. Her death rocked the F1 world. It hit Carlos Sainz especially hard, who was given his first racing lessons by Maria. Let's go game! Unfortunately, this was only the beginning of the tragic story for the Marussia team. During the 2014 Japanese Grand Prix, a car flew off the track. Oh my God! It was Jules Bianchi who crashed into a tractor at a terrifying speed, suffering serious head injuries. He fell into a coma and fought for his life for 9 months. But in July 2015, the sport lost another bright young soul. Alex Zanardi was a Formula One driver until Lotus closed down. But that didn't stop him. He moved to IndyCar, and that's where he made his name. 2 car titles, fearless driving. He got it. He gets him. Can he get him back? But then the unexpected happened. It was 2001. Alex was leading at the Lausitz Ring. He pitted on lap 142, quick stop, everything perfect. He blasted out of the pit lane, but the tyres were still cold. The car was torn to pieces, and with it, Alex's legs. Emergency crews rushed to the scene. By then, Alex had lost 3/4 of his blood. His heart stopped 7 times in the airlift to the hospital. He was given less than an hour to live. But Zanardi wasn't done. He underwent emergency surgery, both legs amputated 8 days later.
The key moment, I think, was when I woke up, and again, I can't take any credit for that because that's character, I guess. Instead of asking myself, how am I going to live with no legs?
What followed was something no one could have predicted. Alex didn't just survive, he decided to fight. Frustrated by the poor quality of standard prosthesis, he began designing his own, something that would allow him to return to motorsport. In 2003, just 2 years after the accident, Zanardi returned to the track in a car he drove with his hands. He completed the 13 laps he'd been unable to finish in 2001, this time at full speed. And New York. But that's not all. At the Paralympic Games in London, he made history. 2 gold medals, 1 silver. In Rio 2016, he did it again. Alex became the first Formula One driver to ever win Paralympic gold. It seemed like an inspiring story of a miracle. But then something terrible happened. In 2020, during a cycling event, Alex collided head-on with a truck. No one knew how it happened. It was so bad that this time, the road to recovery was even longer. He underwent several facial reconstruction surgeries. It was only after 5 months that Alex was able to see and hear again. So if you ever find yourself losing faith, remember Alex Zanardi. But Formula One has a way of reminding its drivers that resilience alone isn't always enough. Which brings us to Clay Regazzoni, who was a Ferrari legend. But in 1980, everything changed when he returned to race for a small team. During the Long Beach Grand Prix, his brakes failed. Smoke and dust and debris at Queen's Hairpin, this is where all the action is taking place. And that looks like too much action. The crash left him paralysed from the waist down, a sudden, brutal end to his Formula One career. But Clay Regazzoni wasn't called the Indestructible for nothing. He sued the organisers, but separately demanded safer barriers. However, this was not the first warning sign. Back in 1978, 3 teenagers had snuck onto the circuit at night. They got into a car, started racing, and crashed into the barriers. All 3 died. It should have been a wake-up call, but nothing changed. And yet Clay came back. Just months after his accident, he took part in a rally, driving specially adapted cars. He became an advocate for disabled drivers, using his own experience to create access and opportunity for others. The same willpower that got him through apexes at 180 miles per hour was now aimed at tearing down societal barriers. But tragedy, once again, was not done with him. In 2006, at the age of 67, he was driving to a conference when he collided with a lorry on an Italian motorway. This time, he didn't walk away, he died on impact. April 16, 2017, Formula 4. A race of 17-year-olds turns into a nightmare. From the inside line to up into 13th place, you can see they were all scrabbling around for, "Oh, that's horrendous, that's absolutely enormous." He just couldn't see him. Billy Monger was involved in a horrific crash. The impact was so severe that it took rescuers nearly 2 hours to free him from the wreckage. When they finally succeeded, the news was on Wednesday, and I was a double amp, yeah? I'd lost my legs, but I'd equally gained the opportunity to still continue living. Like many drivers, Billy wasn't ready to let go, but unlike others, the rules stood in his way. At the time, FIA regulations didn't allow disabled drivers to race single-seaters. Munger made this fight public and won. A year after the accident, he was driving a specially modified car again. It was the BRDC British Formula 3 Championship. Last year, Billy successfully lobbied the FIA to change the rules so that disabled drivers can now compete in able-bodied races. His return wasn't just symbolic. Billy came back to win. One of those victories came in Pau, a legendary street circuit in France, under heavy rain.
From Billy Munger, he sees the checkered flag. He wins the 78th running of the Pau Grand Prix. What an outstanding drive by Billy Munger.
But the race was only part of the story. Munger's journey resonated far beyond the track. He raised over £3 million for charity and became a powerful voice for accessibility in motorsport. If you work hard with your recovery, your rehabilitation, everything like that, you'll still be able to be independent. Though he returned to the track, his racing career didn't continue for long. Instead, he took on new challenges and completed an Ironman. Not only did he complete it, he broke the record for people with double amputations. Now his sights are set on the 2028 Paralympic Games in Los Angeles. Billy beat the rules, but others were failed by the system itself. The 1989 season opened with testing in Brazil, but on a fast right-hand turn, the car suddenly lost grip. Behind the wheel was Philip Strife. The car rolled and was torn apart. But most crucially, the roll hoop, the one structure designed to protect the driver's head, had failed completely. Strife was thrown from the cockpit and landed beyond the guardrail. His spine was shattered. What followed was worse than the crash itself. Track marshals, not trained professionals, reached him first. They tried to help, moving his head and body without support or stabilization. That movement likely sealed his fate. They did what they thought was right, but they weren't trained. That's what ensured I would never walk again. It was 30 minutes before an ambulance arrived. Philippe was airlifted to a hospital, but the pilot got lost and accidentally landed on Copacabana Beach, right next to sunbathers. Just imagine, his wife arrived at the hospital before him. As a result, he was paralyzed. His F1 career was over, but Strife refused to disappear. He rebuilt his life, launching a successful business and becoming a fierce advocate for accessibility in motorsport. Well, in the meanwhile, he lost that position. Everyone remembers 1994 for Imola, the blackest weekend in Formula One history. The very next race was Monaco, where the entire grid came together to honour Senna and Ratzenberger. But before the shock had time to fade, tragedy struck again. At 272 km/h, Karl Wendlinger lost the car under braking and slammed sideways into the barriers. The last thing I remember is going to bed on Wednesday evening. I don't know anything from any seconds of driving. He was pulled from the wreckage unconscious, miraculously with no broken bones. But the real damage was far worse. Karl had fallen into a coma. Tragedy seemed to follow the season, and his Sauber team withdrew from the race immediately. He remained in a coma for 19 days. When he woke, his mind was fractured. A doctor down there asked me about my name, and I told them my name. My name is Karl, I'm 25 years old, I'm from Tyrol. The next day, they told me I said, I'm Karl, I'm 12 years old, and I'm from Karl and Joel. And yet, even before he was released, the racing bug returned. Once to the doctor, when can I go home? And I said, not now. Why? Because I want to get fit to get to do racing again. But after a few months, he was back behind the wheel of a race car. Still, the injury had left its mark. Wendlinger lacked pace and couldn't match his former speed. Even so, Sauber offered him a seat for the 1995 season. But Karl was no longer the driver who once kept up with Schumacher. He was slow, unsure, confused. I went back to the doctors. Your injury was so heavy that for a normal life it's okay, but if you maybe have to show these extreme performances and concentration, everything maybe you're not far enough yet. After 4 races, Wendlinger was replaced. He finished his F1 career quietly, with no farewell, no one moment that said, "This is the end." These were the accidents that ended the careers of drivers, but were there any that changed Formula One? Unfortunately, yes. Click on the video to find out about